3 days had passed since the battle. The Defiance drifted in space, surrounded by rescue vessels and repair ships. Help had finally arrived, too late to fight, but just in time to save. Human ships, dozens of them, had come racing across the stars when they heard what happened. Velra stood in the medical bay, watching the crew receive treatment. The wounded were everywhere. Broken bones, burns, wounds that would leave scars for life. But they were alive. Against all logic, most of them were alive. She had spent the past 3 days interviewing survivors, recording their stories, trying to understand what she had witnessed. She still did not understand. She was not sure she ever would. Captain Park Do-hyun found her there, staring at a wall covered with photographs. Faces of crew members. Some smiling, some serious. 12 of them had small black ribbons attached to their frames. The boarding team. None of them had survived. Ambassador, Do-hyun said. His arm was in a sling. His face was tired but calm. The rescue commander tells me a council ship will arrive tomorrow to take you home. Velra nodded slowly. Yes, I must return and deliver my report. And what will you tell them? About us? She turned to face him. For a long moment, she simply looked at this human. This strange, impossible creature who had led his crew into certain death and somehow brought most of them out alive. I do not know yet, she admitted. I have seen many things in my long life, Captain. I have witnessed wonders and horrors across the galaxy. But I have never seen anything like what I saw on this ship. Do-hyun waited. Your species should have died 1,000 times over. Velra continued. Your planet is hostile. Your bodies are fragile. You have no natural weapons, no protective shells, no special abilities. By every measure, you should have been wiped out long before you ever reached the stars. And yet here we are. Yes, here you are. And I finally understand why. She moved to the window and looked out at the stars. The other human ships were visible, their lights blinking in the darkness. A fleet gathering around a single wounded vessel, protecting it, honoring it. Other species fight to survive, Velra said. They calculate odds. They weigh costs and benefits. They retreat when logic demands retreat. They surrender when mathematics proves they cannot win. She paused. Humans do none of these things. We do sometimes, Do-hyun said. No, you do not. Not when it matters. Not when your backs are against the wall. Velra turned to face him again. I watched your crew laugh in the face of death. I saw your engineer threaten a machine into working. I heard your medic sing while treating wounds. I witnessed a 20-year-old girl volunteer to die so that others might live. Her voice dropped to nearly a whisper. And I watched you smile when 60 enemy ships surrounded you. You smiled, Captain, as if you were greeting an old friend. Do-hyun was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Fear is a tool, Ambassador. It tells us when to be careful. But if we let it control us, we become its slaves. Somewhere in our history, humans learn to use fear instead of being used by it. We take it and we turn it into something else. Anger, determination, spite. He almost smiled. Especially spite. Spite? The universe told us we were weak. We became strong. It told us we would die. We refused. It told us we were alone. We reached for the stars. Do-hyun looked at the photographs on the wall. Every human achievement is an act of spite against a universe that said it could not be done. Velra followed his gaze to the faces of the dead boarding team. Baek Soo-jin smiled at the camera, young and bright and full of life that was now gone. She knew she would die, Velra said. Yes, and she went anyway. Yes, why? Do-hyun reached out and touched the photograph gently. Because she believed it mattered. Because she knew that her death would save others. Because she wanted her life to mean something. He let his hand drop. Humans are not afraid of death, Ambassador. We are afraid of dying without purpose. Give us a reason, a cause, something worth fighting for, and we will walk into hell itself with a smile on our faces. Valra felt something shift inside her. A new understanding. A terrible clarity. The Galactic Council asked me to determine if humanity is a threat, she said. They wanted to know if you should be contained, controlled, perhaps even destroyed before you grow too powerful. And what will you tell them? Valra thought about her answer for a long time. She thought about the battle, about the impossible victory, about the laughter and the singing and the spite, about 12 people who died so that others might live. I will tell them the truth, she finally said. I will tell them that humanity is indeed a threat. The greatest threat the galaxy has ever known. Not because you are strong or smart or advanced, but because you are something far more dangerous. She met Do Yun's eyes. You are unbreakable. You bend, but you do not shatter. You fall, but you always rise again. You face impossible odds, and somehow, impossibly, you win. And even when you lose, you make your enemies pay such a terrible price that they fear fighting you ever again. She took a deep breath. The universe has predators, Captain. Species that hunt and kill and conquer. But humanity is not a predator. Humanity is the thing that predators learn to fear. You are the monster that monsters tell stories about. You are the darkness that makes the darkness afraid. Don said nothing. He simply listened. I will tell the council to leave you alone, Velra continued. To stay out of your way. To never, ever give humanity a reason to turn its attention toward them. Because if they do, if they make an enemy of your species, they will learn what the Keth learned today. She walked toward the door, then stopped. What is that? That humanity does not fight wars. You fight extinctions. And you always win. She left the medical bay without another word. The next day, the council ship arrived. Valra boarded it with her recordings, her notes, and her new understanding of the universe. As the ship pulled away from the human fleet, she stood at a window and watched the Defiance grow smaller in the distance. A single ship. A broken, battered, dying ship. And yet it had destroyed a fleet. It had killed a commander. It had shattered the myth that the Keth were unstoppable. All because humans refused to accept what the universe told them was true. Velra began composing her report. To the Galactic Council. Classification. Highest priority. Subject. Assessment of human military capabilities. She paused, searching for the right words. Then she began to write. I watched Earth's warriors in battle. I saw them fight when they should have fled. I saw them laugh when they should have wept. I saw them win when they should have died. And I finally understand why the heavens dread them. Do not provoke them. Do not threaten them. Do not give them a reason to turn their eyes toward us. Because humans do not just fight for survival. They fight for each other. For honor. For love. For spite. For reasons we cannot understand and could never predict. They are not the strongest species in the galaxy. They are not the smartest or the most advanced. But they are the most dangerous. Because they are the only species that looks at impossible odds and sees opportunity. They are the only species that smiles at death and makes it blink. First, they are human, and may whatever gods exist help anyone who forgets what that means. She ended the report and sent it far behind her. The Defiance continued its long journey home, carried by rescue ships through the endless dark of space. Its crew rested. Its wounded healed. Its dead were remembered. And somewhere in the galaxy, the Keth Dominion gathered its remaining forces and spoke in whispers of the human ship that had broken them. They would remember. They would always remember. The universe had many terrors. many monsters, many things that lurked in the darkness, between stars. But nothing was more terrifying than a human with something to fight for. Nothing at all. The Defiance screamed through space like a bullet made of fire and rage. Around it, the remaining Keth ships scrambled to react. They had expected the human vessel to run. Every tactical model said it would run. Every logical calculation proved it should run. It was damaged. It was outnumbered. It was dying. Instead, it was charging directly at them. "Enemy fleet is opening fire," Lieutenant Kim reported. Her voice was tight but steady. "Heavy bombardment incoming. All power to forward shields," Captain Doyen ordered. "Helm, do not slow down." Not for anything. Pilot Shin Ji-woo did not answer with words. He simply pushed the engines harder. The ship vibrated around them, metal groaning under stress it was never designed to handle. Velra gripped a railing with all four of her hands. Her hearts were pounding so hard, she could feel them in her throat. The main display showed the Keth fleet growing larger every second. Weapons fire filled the space between them like a storm of light and death. The first hits landed. The Defiance shuddered but kept going. More hits, more damage. Warning alarms screamed from every console. "Hull breach on deck 2. We have lost shield section 3. Fire in cargo bay 7. Do-yoon did not flinch. "Keep going. Do not stop." The ship punched through the outer line of Keth vessels like a fist through paper. 2 enemy ships exploded as the Defiance's remaining weapons tore into them at point-blank range. A third tried to ram them and missed by meters, and still they kept going. "We are approaching the command ship," Ji-woo announced. His hands were flying over the controls, making adjustments faster than Velra's eyes could follow. "They have formed a defensive ring. They have formed a defensive ring. They have formed a defense. 10 ships between us and the target. Then we go through them." The pilot actually laughed. It was a wild sound, full of joy and madness. "Yes, sir." Going through. Velra had studied many species. She had learned their tactics, their strategies, their ways of war. She knew that there were rules to combat, lines that no sane commander would cross, actions that no reasonable warrior would take. The humans crossed every line. They broke every rule. They did things that made no sense, followed no logic, served no purpose except pure, stubborn defiance. Ji-woo flew the ship through a gap between 2 Keth vessels that was barely wider than the Defiance itself. The hull scraped against enemy metal, sending sparks showering through the void. It should have destroyed them. Instead, it just cleared a path. 4 ships down, Kim reported. 6 more between us and target. Missiles? Ready to fire. Hold them. I want a clear shot at the command ship. Nothing else matters. The Defiance twisted and rolled, avoiding fire that should have been unavoidable. Ji-woo was not just flying anymore. He was performing art. His face was lit with a strange, terrible joy. He was living the greatest moment of his life, and he knew it. 3 more Keth ships fell to the human weapons. The defensive ring was crumbling. And then the command ship opened fire. It was not like the other weapons. This was something different. A beam of pure energy, blinding white, cutting through space like a knife through silk. It hit the Defiance directly. The ship screamed. Metal tore. Systems failed. Half the bridge went dark. Velra was thrown to the floor. She felt pain in her side, sharp and sudden. When she looked down, she saw blood. Her blood. Something had cut her during the impact. She looked up and saw chaos. Officers were picking themselves up from the floor. Consoles were sparking and smoking. The main display was cracked but still working, showing the command ship looming before them. "Report," Do-hyun shouted. He was bleeding too, a deep gash on his arm, but he was standing. Engines down to 30%. Someone called out. We are losing power. Weapons? Lieutenant Kim pulled herself back to her station. One of her screens was dead. She was using the others. Missiles still loaded. Rail guns offline. Point defense at minimum. Distance to target? 50 kilometers and closing. We will be in optimal range in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Velra did not know if they would survive 2 more seconds. The door to the bridge opened. A young woman stumbled in. She was wearing combat armor and carrying a rifle. Her face was covered in soot and sweat. Her name tag read Beek Sujin. Captain, she said, breathing hard. Boarding team standing by. Boarding team. Velra stared. They were not just going to shoot missiles at the command ship. They were going to board it. They were going to send people inside an enemy vessel. It was insane. It was suicide. It was absolutely, completely human. How many? Do-hyun asked. 12 volunteers, sir. Including me. You are barely 20 years old, Private Beek. Sujin stood straighter. I am old enough to fight, sir. Old enough to die. And I would rather die on that ship than watch from here. Do-hyun looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Prepare for launch. When we get close enough, you go in fast. Plant charges on their reactor. Get out if you can. If you cannot. He did not finish. Sujin smiled. It was a bright smile, young and fearless. Then we make sure they remember us, sir. She turned and ran back toward the boarding shuttle. Velra grabbed Do-hyun's arm. You cannot send her. She is a child. She will die. The captain's eyes were sad but certain. She knows the risk. They all do. And they volunteered anyway. He gently removed her hand. This is what you do not understand about humans, Ambassador. We do not fight because we expect to win. We fight because fighting is the only thing we know how to do. We fight because surrender is not in our blood. We fight because somewhere deep inside us, there is a voice that says, not today, every single time death comes calling. Another impact shook the ship. More alarms. More damage. 30 kilometers, Kim announced. Enemy fire intensifying. Hold course. 20 kilometers. Their shields are at maximum. Fire everything we have at those shields. The Defiance unleashed its remaining weapons. Railguns that should have been offline somehow fired. Missiles streaked toward the command ship, slamming into its protective barrier. The shields flickered, weakened, but held. 10 kilometers. Boarding range in 30 seconds. Do-hyun opened communications. Boarding team, prepare for launch. Sujin's voice came back, clear and calm. Ready, sir. Ready, sir. See you on the other side. Good luck, Private. Do not need luck, sir. We are human. The shuttle launched. Velra watched it on the damaged display, a tiny craft racing toward the massive command ship. It was so small, so fragile, so absolutely certain. Keth Point Defense tried to shoot it down. They hit it once, twice. The shuttle kept going, trailing smoke and fire. They are through the shields, Kim reported. Her voice cracked slightly. They are landing. On the display, Velra saw the shuttle crash into the side of the command ship. It did not dock. It did not land gently. It simply smashed through the hull like a hammer through glass. The 12 humans were inside. Now we wait, Do-hyun said softly. And we keep fighting. We give them time. The Defiance continued its assault, pounding the command ship with everything it had left. The Keth flagship fought back, but its attention was divided now. Something was happening inside it. Chaos. Confusion. The humans were doing what humans did best. They were refusing to die quietly. Minutes passed. They felt like hours. The Defiance took more damage. More systems failed. The ship was barely holding together, running on emergency power and sheer determination. And then, suddenly, the command ship's lights flickered. "I am reading power fluctuations on the enemy flagship," Kim said, her voice rising with hope. "Their reactor is destabilizing." The boarding team. They did it. They actually did it. Velra watched as the massive Keth vessel began to shake. Explosions rippled along its hull. Escape pods launched in every direction as the crew abandoned ship. "Pull back," Do-hyun ordered. "Get us clear of the blast zone." The Defiance turned and fled, engines screaming. Behind them, the Keth command ship exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the darkness of space like a new sun. The remaining Keth ships froze. Their formation broke. Without their leader, without their flagship, they were lost. Confused, afraid. For the first time in the battle, the Keth were afraid. "Enemy fleet is retreating," Kim whispered. She sounded like she did not believe her own words. They are running." The bridge was silent. Then, slowly, someone started to cheer. Then another. Then everyone. They had won. Against impossible odds. Against logic. Against every rule of war. The humans had won. Velra stood in the corner of the ruined bridge, bleeding and shaking, and watched these strange, terrible creatures celebrate their survival. She had only one question. "The boarding team," she said. "Did anyone survive?" Do-hyun's smile faded. He did not answer. He did not need to. The bridge of the Defiance was quiet. Not the quiet of fear. Not the quiet of despair. It was the quiet of focus. Every officer sat at their station, eyes on their screens, hands ready on their controls. They breathed slowly. They moved with precision. They waited. Velra pressed herself against the wall, trying to stay out of the way. Her recording device captured everything. The red lights, the tense faces, the massive display showing 60 enemy ships growing closer with every passing second. She had witnessed battles before. She had seen the Iron Empire crush rebel fleets with overwhelming force. She had watched the Harmony Collective negotiate peaceful surrenders. She had even observed the Keth Dominion tear apart merchant convoys like wolves among sheep. But she had never seen anyone smile at such odds. "Lieutenant Kim," Captain Do-hyun said. "Status report." The young woman at the tactical station turned slightly. Her name tag read Kim Yuna. She had sharp eyes and steady hands. "Enemy fleet is in standard hunting formation. They expect us to run. Their fastest ships are positioned to cut off escape routes. Weapons, all systems green. Missiles loaded. Railguns charged. Point defense active." Do-hyun nodded. "Helm, set course directly toward the enemy fleet. Full speed." The helm officer, a young man named Shin Ji-woo, did not hesitate. Course set. Full speed engaged. Velra could not believe what she was hearing. "Captain," she said, her voice shaking. "You are flying toward them? Should you not retreat?" "Find. Help? Call for reinforcements?" Do-hyun did not look at her. "Reinforcements are 3 days away. Retreat means they chase us. The Keth are faster. They would catch us in open space with no advantage." He paused. "We fight here. We fight now. On our terms. But they outnumber you 60-1. Now Do-hyun did turn. That small smile was still on his face. "Ambassador, have you ever heard of a place called Thermopylae?" Velra shook her head. 300 human warriors once held a mountain pass against an army of over 100,000. They all died, but they bought time for their people to prepare. They became legends. Do-hyun turned back to the display. "Humans do not count enemies, Ambassador. We count reasons to fight. The Defiance accelerated. On the display, the distance between them and the Keth fleet shrank rapidly. Velra could see the enemy ships clearly now. They were black and angular, covered in spikes and blades. They looked like something from a nightmare. "They are hailing us," the communications officer reported. On screen, a face appeared. It was Keth. Gray skin stretched over a skull with no nose. 4 black eyes stared without blinking. Rows of sharp teeth filled a mouth that seemed too wide. "Human vessel," the Keth commander spoke. His voice was like gravel scraping metal. "You are surrounded. Your death is certain. Surrender now, and we will make it quick." Dahyun stood perfectly still. "I am Captain Park Do-yeon of the Earth vessel Defiance. We do not surrender." The Keth commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "Then you will die screaming. We will take your ship apart, piece by piece. We will eat your flesh while you still breathe. This is the way of the Keth." "Sounds uncomfortable," Do-yeon said. "Counteroffer. Turn around now. Go home and tell your masters that this sector belongs to humanity. Do this, and I will let you live." Silence filled the bridge. Velra stared at the captain. He had just threatened 60 warships. He had just told the Keth Dominion to run away. From one ship. One small, outgunned, outnumbered ship. The Keth commander's 4 eyes narrowed. "You dare mock us? We are the Keth. We have destroyed 1,000 worlds. We have crushed 100 species. You are nothing but food," Do-yeon sighed. "Lieutenant Kim, end transmission and fire at will." The screen went dark. Half a second later, the Defiance opened fire. Velra had never seen anything like it. The ship came alive with violence. Missiles streaked from launch tubes, leaving trails of fire across the void. Railguns thundered, sending metal slugs at impossible speeds. The point defense systems created a web of destruction around the ship. The first Keth vessel exploded before it could even raise shields. The second lost its engines and spun away into darkness. The third, fourth, and fifth took direct hits that tore through their hulls like paper. 6 confirmed kills, Lieutenant Kim reported. Her voice was calm, professional, as if she was reading a weather report. Reloading tubes 3 through 7. Railgun cycling. The Defiance dove into the enemy formation like a knife into flesh. It twisted and turned, always moving, never staying still long enough to be an easy target. Keth ships fired back, but their shots went wide. They were not used to prey that fought back. They were not prepared for a ship that attacked instead of ran. "They are trying to surround us," Jiwoo said from the helm. "Don't let them," Do-yeon ordered. "Keep us moving. Use their size against them. They cannot maneuver like we can." It was true. The Keth ships were larger and more powerful, but they were also slower to turn. The Defiance slipped between them like water through fingers. Every time a Keth ship tried to get a clear shot, another Keth ship was in the way. 9 kills, Kim announced. 12, 15. Velra watched in amazement. This was not a battle. This was a dance. A deadly, beautiful dance of fire and metal. And somehow, impossibly, the humans were winning. But the Keth were learning. They began to coordinate. Their ships formed smaller groups, covering each other's blind spots. The space for the Defiance to maneuver grew smaller. "They are adapting," Do-yeon noted. "Should we change tactics?" Kim asked. "No, we push harder. All power to forward weapons." "Hell, take us through the center of their formation." Jiwoo grinned. Actually grinned. "Yes, sir. Punching through." The Defiance accelerated again, heading straight for the heart of the enemy fleet. Keth ships fired everything they had. The human ship shook with impacts. Alarms screamed. Sparks flew from damaged consoles, but it did not stop. It did not slow. It kept going, guns blazing, cutting a path of destruction through the enemy. Velra found herself holding her breath. This was madness. This was suicide. No rational species would do this. No logical commander would order this. And yet, the Defiance burst through the other side of the formation, leaving a trail of broken Keth ships behind it. 23 enemy vessels were now debris. The remaining ships scrambled to turn around, to reform, to figure out what had just happened. "Damage report," Diane said. "Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. Contained. Weapon systems at 80%. Engines at 90. 6 wounded, no dead. No dead." They had just fought 40 ships, and no one had died. "Turn us around," Doyen ordered. "We are going back in." The Keth commander appeared on screen again, uninvited this time. His gray face was twisted with rage. "What are you? What kind of creatures are you?" Dohyun looked at him with those calm, empty eyes. "We are human. And this is Tuesday." He cut the transmission. Lieutenant Kim laughed. Actually laughed, loud and bright. Around the bridge, other officers smiled. Someone made a joke about overtime pay. Someone else complained about missing dinner. They were laughing. They were joking. They were in the middle of the deadliest battle Velra had ever seen, and they were treating it like a game. "You are all insane," she whispered. Captain Do-yoon heard her. He turned, and for the first time, his smile reached his eyes. "Perhaps, Ambassador, but insanity has kept humanity alive for a very long time. The universe keeps telling us we should die. We keep disagreeing." The Defiance turned and dove back into the fight. More missiles. More railgun fire. More Keth ships torn apart by a single vessel that refused to accept the mathematics of its own destruction. Velra recorded everything. Her hands were shaking. Her hearts were pounding. But she could not look away. She was watching something impossible. Something that should not exist. A species that fought not because they could win, but because fighting was simply what they did. Who laughed at death and made jokes about impossible odds. She finally understood why the Council was concerned. Humans were not just different. They were terrifying, and they were only getting started. The second hour of battle was worse than the first. The Defiance had destroyed 31 Keth ships. An impossible number. A legendary achievement. Any other species would have celebrated. They would have declared victory and retreated to safety. But there were still 29 enemy ships left. And now they were angry. The Keth had stopped trying to surround the human vessel. They had stopped trying to be clever. Now they simply attacked with everything they had, throwing themselves at the Defiance like waves crashing against a rock. And slowly, the rock was beginning to crack. "Hull breach on deck 3. An officer shouted. "Emergency bulkheads sealed. Fire in engineering section 2. Suppression systems activated. We have lost railgun 4. Switching to backup." Captain Do-hyun stood in the center of the bridge, steady as a statue. His uniform was covered in dust and ash. A small cut on his forehead dripped blood down his face. He did not wipe it away. "Status on weapons?" He asked. Lieutenant Kim's station was sparking. Half her screens were dead, but her voice was still steady. "Down to 60% capability. Missiles running low. Railguns overheating. Engines? 70% and dropping. We have taken damage to the primary drive. Engineer Han is working on it." Another impact shook the ship. The lights flickered. Someone fell from their chair and quickly climbed back up. Velra crouched in the corner of the bridge, her arms wrapped around her recording device. She was shaking so hard she could barely hold it. Every explosion made her flinch. Every alarm made her want to scream. This was it. This was the end. The humans had fought bravely, but mathematics could not be denied forever. They were going to die. All of them. And she was going to die with them. "Captain," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Please, is there no way to surrender? To negotiate? Anything?" Do-hyun glanced at her. There was no anger in his eyes. No judgment. Just understanding. "The Keth do not accept surrender, Ambassador. They would torture us for days before letting us die. There is no negotiation with them." He turned back to the display. "Our only choice is to fight. To take as many of them with us as we can. To make them remember this day. But why? What is the point of dying if no one survives to remember?" The captain was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Because someone always survives to remember. That is what humanity has learned. Even in our darkest hours, someone survives. Someone tells the story. And that story inspires others to fight when their own darkness comes." Another explosion. The ship lurched violently. This time, several officers fell. One did not get back up. "Medical team to the bridge," Do-hyun ordered. The door opened and a woman rushed in. She was small, with kind eyes and gentle hands. Her uniform was stained with blood that was not her own. Her name tag read Choi Yoonji. She knelt beside the fallen officer and began working. Her movements were quick and sure. As she worked, she started to sing. It was soft and low, a melody Velra did not recognize. A human song, perhaps. Something from their home world. The injured officer groaned. Yoonji kept singing, kept working. Within minutes, she had stabilized him. "He will live," she announced. "I need to get him to medical." 2 other crew members helped her carry him out. As she left, she was still singing. Velra stared at the door. She was singing. In the middle of battle, while treating wounds. She was singing. "Yoonji always sings when she works," Do-hyun said. "She says it helps the patients stay calm. Reminds them they are not alone. But she could die at any moment. How can she sing?" The captain looked at Velra with something like pity. "Ambassador, you ask the wrong questions. You ask how we can sing while dying. The real question is, why would we stop?" The ship shook again. More alarms. More damage reports. The Defiance was falling apart around them. Velra could feel it in her bones. And then, from the engineering section, came a voice over the communication system. "Bridge, this is Engineer Han Taemin. I have good news and bad news." Do-hyun almost smiled. "Go ahead, Taemin." "Bad news. The primary drive coupling is cracked. By every law of physics, it should have failed 20 minutes ago. Good news. I am holding it together with welding wire, emergency tape, and what I can only describe as extreme stubbornness. How long can you keep it running?" "Honestly, I have no idea. It should not be running at all. I have basically threatened it into working." "Threatened it?" "I told it that if it fails, I will personally disassemble it and turn it into a toilet." The drive seems motivated. Someone on the bridge laughed. Then another. Soon, half the officers were laughing, even as the ship burned around them. Velra did not understand. Nothing about this made sense. They were dying. Their ship was falling apart. An enemy fleet was tearing them to pieces. And they were laughing, making jokes, threatening machinery with bathroom conversion. "You are all mad," she said. "Truly, completely mad." "Probably," Do-hyun agreed. "But we are alive. And as long as we are alive, we fight. As long as we fight, we hope. And as long as we hope, we are never truly beaten." A new voice cut in. It was Lieutenant Kim. "Captain, I am tracking a change in enemy formation. The Keth are pulling back their damaged ships. They are consolidating around their command vessel." Do-hyun moved to her station, looking at the display. Velra could see it too. The remaining Keth ships were gathering into a tight cluster, surrounding one ship that was larger than the others. the command vessel. They are protecting their leader, Do-hyun said. They think we might try to run. They are preparing to chase. What do we do? Kim asked. The captain was silent for a long moment. Valra watched his face, trying to read his thoughts. She saw calculation, consideration, and then, slowly, a new expression. Something dangerous. Something determined. We are not going to run, he said finally. Sir? They expect us to retreat, to flee while we still can, to accept our losses and escape. Do-hyun turned to face his crew. Every eye was on him. But that is not who we are. We are the Defiance. And I did not name this ship as a joke. He walked to the center of the bridge. We have fought well today. We have destroyed more than half their fleet. We have shown the Keth that humanity is not prey. But it is not enough. As long as their command ship survives, they will come back. They will bring more ships. They will hunt us across the galaxy. He paused. So we end this now, today. We take out their command ship. We kill their leader. We break their spirits so completely that they never forget what happens when they face humanity. The bridge was silent. Valra looked at the faces around her. She expected fear, doubt, hesitation. She saw none of these things. She saw hunger, determination, a fierce, burning desire that went beyond survival. These humans did not just want to live. They wanted to win, to dominate, to crush their enemies so thoroughly that no one would ever challenge them again. It was beautiful. It was horrifying. It was human. Lieutenant Kim, Do-hyun said. How many missiles do we have left? 12, sir. Load them all. Helm, plot a course directly for the Keth command ship. Ji-woo was already working. Course plotted. It will take us through their entire defensive formation. I know. Do-hyun sat in his captain's chair. All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for final assault. Today, we teach the galaxy what happens when you underestimate humanity. He looked at Valra one last time. I suggest you hold on to something, Ambassador. This is going to be rough. The Defiance turned toward the enemy fleet. Its engines roared. Its weapons charged, and Captain Park Do-hyun smiled the smile of a man who had already accepted death, and found that he did not care. Ambassador Valra had seen many species across the galaxy. She had walked on worlds made of crystal. She had spoken with beings who lived for 10,000 years. She had watched empires rise and fall like waves on a cosmic ocean. But she had never visited a human ship before. The shuttle docked with a soft sound. Valra adjusted her translation device and checked her recording equipment. The Galactic Council had sent her to observe Earth's military. They wanted to know if humans were a threat. Most council members laughed at the idea. Humans were young. Their species had only discovered space travel 200 years ago. What could they possibly offer? Valra stepped through the airlock and stopped. The ship was not beautiful. It was not elegant like the vessels of the Harmony Collective. It was not massive like the dreadnoughts of the Iron Empire. The walls were plain metal. The lights were simple and white. Everything looked practical, functional, almost ugly. But there was something else. Something she could not name. The air itself felt different, heavy, like the moment before a storm. A human stood waiting for her. He was not tall by human standards. His hair was cut short and neat. His uniform was dark blue with silver marks on the shoulders. His face showed nothing. No fear, no excitement, no curiosity. Just calm. Perfect, absolute calm. Ambassador Valra, he said. His voice was quiet but clear. I am Captain Park Do-hyun. Welcome to the Defiance. Valra bowed slightly, as was custom among her people. Thank you, Captain. The Galactic Council appreciates your cooperation. Do-hyun nodded once, Please follow me. I will show you to your quarters first. Then you may observe our operations." They walked through narrow corridors. Velra noticed everything. The crew members they passed did not stop to stare at her. They simply nodded at their captain and continued their work. Their movements were quick and efficient. No wasted motion. No hesitation. She had visited military vessels of other species before. The soldiers of the Iron Empire stood at attention and shouted greetings. The warriors of the Keth Dominion would challenge any visitor to prove their worth. The peacekeepers of the Harmony Collective would offer songs and flowers. These humans did none of that. They simply worked, as if having an alien ambassador on board was nothing special. As if everything was exactly as it should be done. It made Velra uncomfortable in a way she did not understand. "Your crew seems very focused," she said. "They are," Do-Yoon replied. "We are in contested space. The Keth Dominion has been active in this sector." Velra's four eyes widened slightly. "The Keth? Should we not retreat to safer territory?" Do-Hyun glanced at her. For just a moment, something flickered in his eyes. It might have been amusement. It might have been something else entirely. "The Defiance does not retreat, Ambassador." They reached her quarters. The room was small but clean. A bed, a desk, a window showing the stars outside. Velra set down her equipment and turned to the captain. "I have studied your species," she said. "You are young. You have only known space for a short time. Yet the Council is concerned. They say humans fight differently than other species. They say you do not follow the normal rules of war." Do-Hyun stood in the doorway. His hands were clasped behind his back. What rules would those be? The rules of survival. When a battle is lost, a wise commander retreats. When the enemy is stronger, a smart species surrenders. When death is certain, logical beings accept their fate. Velra paused. "But humans do not do these things. Why?" The captain was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. "Ambassador, my grandmother lived through a great war on Earth. Her city was burned. Her family was killed. She had nothing. No food, no shelter, no hope." He looked at Velra with those strange, flat eyes. "She survived. She rebuilt. She raised children who raised children. I exist because she refused to die when death was certain." Velra felt a chill run through her body. "That is admirable, but also logical, perhaps." Do-Hyun almost smiled. Almost. But logic did not build humanity. Stubbornness did. Spite did. The absolute refusal to accept what the universe tells us we must accept. He stepped back from the doorway. "Rest now, Ambassador. I suspect you will see what I mean soon enough." He left. The door closed behind him. Velra sat on the bed and tried to process what she had heard. She had interviewed warriors from dozens of species. She had met generals who commanded billions. She had spoken with beings who could destroy planets with a thought. None of them had ever frightened her. But something about Captain Park Do-Hyun made her heart beat faster. Something about his calm, his certainty, the way he spoke of death like it was an old enemy he had defeated many times before. She activated her recording device and began her report. Initial observations of human vessel Defiance. The ship is smaller than expected. Technology appears functional, but not advanced by galactic standards. Crew discipline is excellent. Captain Park Do-Hyun displays unusual psychological profile. No apparent fear response. No aggression display. Simply calm. She paused, searching for the right words. Preliminary assessment. Humans may be more complex than the Council believes. Recommend continued observation before final evaluation. She ended the recording and looked out the window. The stars were beautiful. cold and distant and eternal. Somewhere out there, the Keth Dominion was hunting. They were one of the most feared military powers in the galaxy. Their ships were fast and deadly. Their warriors felt no pain and no mercy. If the Keth found them, the Defiance would be destroyed. That was simple mathematics. One human ship against the Keth fleet was not a battle. It was an execution. Velra wondered if Captain Doyun understood this. She wondered if his crew understood. They must. They were not stupid, and yet they stayed. They patrolled contested space. They did not retreat. An alarm suddenly filled the ship. Red lights flashed. Velra jumped to her feet as a voice came through the speakers. All hands to battle stations. Enemy signatures detected. This is not a drill. Velra grabbed her recording equipment and ran into the corridor. Crew members rushed past her, moving with purpose. No one screamed. No one panicked. They simply moved. She found her way to the bridge. It was a circular room filled with screens and controls. Officers sat at their stations, fingers flying over keyboards. In the center stood Captain Doyen, watching the main display. On the screen, Velra saw them. Ships. Dozens of ships. Keth warships, emerging from behind a moon like predators emerging from shadows. How many? Dohyun asked. A young woman at the tactical station answered. Her voice was steady. 47 confirmed. More arriving. Estimate 60 total within 10 minutes. 60 ships. Against one. Velra felt her legs go weak. This was the end. She had come to observe humans, and now she would die with them. She wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. She wanted to beg Captain Dohyun to run, to surrender, to do anything but fight. But when she looked at his face, she saw something that stopped her cold. He was smiling. It was a small smile. Barely visible. But it was there. And in that moment, Velra understood something that changed everything she thought she knew. Captain Park Doyen was not afraid of those 60 ships. He was looking forward to meeting them.